What if I told you your retirement success doesn't start with investments or savings, but it really starts with your spending? That's right. All retirement planning starts with knowing your spending numbers. And sadly, most don't. Today, I want to share with you 3 approaches to help you get that number. Hello. If we haven't met before, I'm Planner Mike, a certified financial planner professional and owner of True Wealth Financial. This is the show that's dedicated to helping Christians retire with confidence and clarity so they can finish their race with purpose. Thanks so much for tuning in. So today, I want to discuss where to actually start when it comes to planning your retirement. And of course, we'll close with one micro action to help you get one step closer to a Christian retirement that is prosperous, enjoyable, and purposeful. Let me ask you this. If you were to retire tomorrow, do you know how much you'd actually need each month to live the life that you'd want? You see, most people think of retirement, they think about it as an age. I'll retire when I get to this age. Or others think it's hitting some savings number. When I have this much in savings or this much in my portfolio, then I'll retire. But retirement, essentially at its core, is the idea that you have sources of income that will cover your expenses, and you'll be able to live the life that you actually want. Hence, when it comes to planning for it, you really need to know your spending numbers. And like I said, I want to give you 3 different approaches to help you get started. But first, let me explain why this is important by reminding you of the True Wealth Total Retirement System, because this really drives everything else. The True Wealth Total Retirement System starts with a retirement plan. That retirement plan has your spending needs, your timing, your goals, your aspirations, what you're trying to achieve, things like that. That then drives how much income you need on a month, on a quarter, on a year. And it uses those 4 different sources of income that we talked about in the past. Human capital, so you might still do some work, or you might have some part-time consulting, things like that. We call it human capital. Then there's social capital, social security, pensions, things like that. Personal use assets. These are assets that you own that you might sell. And then lastly, you use the financial income from your investments to fill in the gaps. That financial need every year then drives how money is invested. Money that's needed in the next year or 2 or 3 needs to be invested more conservatively, whereas the money that's needed for 4 years or out, you can be more aggressive with it because you still need to outpace inflation. Your future self still needs a lot of growth. So we can then smartly invest. Once we know that, we understand your total tax bill, and then you can take different approaches to do whatever you can to reduce your future tax liability. All the meanwhile, we're also ensuring that we mitigate risk, we have a good estate plan that your spouse is provided for by protecting yourself and your estate. And that is how the True Wealth Total Retirement System starts. So you can see it all hinges off the idea of having a plan. That plan is largely driven by your retirement spending needs. We have 3 different buckets of how we classify our spending needs. First one is our needs, right? We call it needs, wants, and wishes. Needs is basically the basics. What does it cost you to have the basic life that you want? Your electricity, your food, your gas, your housing, your insurance, your medical, things like that. What does it cost you on a month or on a year for those basic necessities of life? Then we have our wants. Our wants are the nice things in life, right? Maybe it's to travel. Maybe it's to have a nicer car. Maybe it's to gift money away to friends or family or churches or organizations. These are not the needs. We don't need to do these things, but these are things that really kind of make life enjoyable. And then there's the wishes. So we have our needs, wants, and wishes. Wishes are bucket list items, luxuries, extravagant things that we'd really like to do if possible. So when we talk about our retirement spending, at least for today, we're really focusing on those basic expenses. What does it cost me to actually live in retirement and pay my bills? Approach number 1, and this is by far the easiest and simplest way to go about doing it, and that's to use your current paycheck. You can simply use the income that you're making now, that your spouse is making, and assuming that you're not going into debt, that's enough to pay your bills, that's a good place to start. All right. But the challenge with that is that there's things in your income that are going to stop. For example, FICA taxes, Social Security, and Medicare. If you stop working, you're not going to have those expenses anymore. Various allotments. Some people set up allotments going out of their paycheck to various types of things, like health savings accounts, like FSA accounts, things like that, flexible savings accounts for various different things. You'll also maybe contributing to your 401k or 403b. Well, in retirement, you're not going to have that. There could be some insurances that are also coming out of your paycheck as well. Things like disability insurance or group life insurance. So those are things that you won't have anymore. So if you're going to look at your paycheck, don't use your gross. At least start with your net, because that'll at least give you some idea of what you're actually getting home and what you're living off of. And of course, there's tax implications of it as well. That's not going to be completely accurate, but at least it gives you a baseline. It's a good place to start. So if nothing else, you can use that number as your first approach. The second approach is similar, but a little bit different, and we call this the ratio test. So from an academia perspective and things that we learn in our CFP courses or Certified Financial Planning courses, we're taught to use a wage replacement ratio. So the idea of that is, most people don't need 100% of their income when they retire. Some do, and some might want it, and that's fine. But generally speaking, you don't need it, right? There's going to be expenses that stop when you stop working. So a good example might be, some people might say, I need 50% of my income or 80% of my income. It's some sort of direct relationship between how much you want to spend and your current paycheck you've actually had. The idea of this is you can use that number to then project out what that future nest egg needs to be in terms of what you need from a retirement perspective. But the challenge here again is things are going to change, right? So the challenge is what is that right ratio? And there's no right answer. The approach seems to be somewhere between, the textbooks say between 50 and 80% of income, but it's really house by house dependent, right? So you have to remember there's things that are going to change when you retire. For example, if you're a person who commutes to work and you drive, especially if you have a long commute, all those transportation costs really could decrease. You're not going to have the gas anymore. You might not have parking anymore. You might not have tolls anymore. All those things are going to go away. Whereas activities for recreation, spending activities, things like that might go up because you don't have to go to work every day. The ratio thing, it might be a little bit better of an approach if you can just throw a number at it. The question is, what's the right number for me? So personally, I've never really liked this idea, but it is an approach that some people do take. The third approach is to the idea of getting your exact number. Now, by far, this is the best way to go about getting what you actually need in retirement. The challenge is it's also the most hardest, right? So if you have a budget, like I have clients or know people that use YNAB or various other types of budgeting tools, EveryDollar, spreadsheets, things like that, or even I have one that just uses a notebook, and they know exactly what they're spending, right? And that's great because they can look down their actual numbers and they have some records of it, and they can confidently say, this is what I need for retirement. And this is by far the best way to go about doing it. The challenge is, again, it's the most hardest, it's the most tedious, it's the most, right, frankly, annoying for a lot of people. So the way to help this a little bit is the idea you can use some apps or some tools to help doing it. For example, we use Right Capital in our financial planning practice here. And so it actually has a budgeting component. Now, it's not like a forecasting budget, like where you're going to spend your money, while it could be used for that, but it's really good from a historical perspective. Here's what I spent. This is done by linking your accounts to Right Capital, and you can see all the transactions flowing in. There's a handful of other tools that do something very similar to this. People in the past have used Mint, which I think is now bought by Intuit, Rocket Money. EveryDollar has the ability to do that. YNAB, you need a budget, right? Essentially, the idea is that you link your bank account to that, and you see the transactions come in. And even if you just do that, you'll get a total number of what it is. And then the next step in there would be to kind of reconcile what this is and what this is. And then you can kind of say, okay, I'm going to have less gas in retirement. I might have more entertainment in retirement. And you can kind of plus and minus those up. Some banks allow you to do this as well. So maybe, if you're Wells Fargo or Bank of America or Navy Federal, various different banks like that, they might in your checking account, they might have some kind of graphic illustration where you can see how much you're spending. Maybe they're taking a stab at kind of characterizing it. I've known other people who they're credit card people, right? I don't really call it credit card, more of a charge card, but they do use a credit card. But the idea is, they don't carry a current balance. They pay it off. All their money goes on to a credit card, and then at the end of the month, they pay it off. And a lot of those cards also have the ability to log in the accounts and see the different transactions, the history. If nothing else, you'd have the statement to know what it is. The challenge here, though, is it can't just be your monthly expenses from a retirement perspective. You want to look at also one-time payments, right? So, for example, maybe you pay your homeowner's insurance one time a year separately. So you want to account for that. Maybe you pay your property tax one time a year, right? So you want to account for that. Home maintenance, things like this. These are general terms of what you want to spend in different things over time. So this is by far the best approach to do it, because if you really know your numbers, then you can really start to apply some rigor and some systematic approach to retirement planning. And that's where the confidence comes. As we conclude, if you're still with me, do me a favor, please hit that like button and consider subscribing. This will spread that information to others who might need it, and more importantly, you'll be notified of future episodes. Today, we talked about 3 approaches to get your spending number. I completely understand how overwhelming, confusing retirement planning can be. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comments below, or you can send an email to mike@truewealth.show. But for today, a good micro action might be to explore some sort of tool that can help you track your spending. Ideally, if you're willing to pay for it, use one of those automated tools that kind of pull transactions in. Or you can use a spreadsheet, or you can use, like I said, just a notebook. But create some kind of system where you can start to track what you're actually spending. Remember, all retirement planning hinges upon knowing your numbers. The more accuracy and the more information you can have regarding your spending needs, the more confidence you'll have when it comes to retirement. Hopefully this helps you on your path to retirement that is prosperous, enjoyable, purposeful. Till next time, hope you have a great day. God bless you.